knowledge is basically experiential information, and it's earned. It's like you earned that knowledge because you actually did something to get it, as opposed to information is unearned knowledge. Like somebody else earned it and then they disseminated it to you and it became information and you just consumed it. Most people hate thinking. If we can get away with not thinking, we definitely will. In the same way that most people don't hit the gym. I think the fact that we have outsourced so much thinking to social media, we've already done it in mass.
Hi, welcome back to the Personality Hacker Podcast. My name is Joel Mark Witt.
And I'm Antonia Dodge.
So if you're watching or listening right now, we're close to 600 total episodes here at Personality Hacker and the podcast.
Which is kind of unbelievable considering that I only promised you 500 episodes.
That's right.
Right.
I squeezed another 100 out. I got it out.
That's right. You're like, how much blood can we get from this rock?
I haven't done it totally yet. This isn't, we're not at the 600 yet, so...
Yeah, I know it's true. I'm
not going to count those chickens.
I might get to 599. I'm like, all right, I'm out.
Not even one more, Joel.
No, one more. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all you get from me.
It's not me. It's the listeners and watchers that want you to keep doing it, I hope.
Yeah.
I hope it's not just Joel.
I hope so, too. That said, it is kind of crazy to me that we're coming up on 600. What is that, like, 9 more episodes? 10 more episodes?
Something like that.
Something in that range?
Yeah, we're doing this since 2014, and your personality, if you've been watching or listening, hasn't really changed. My personality hasn't changed. But I think all of our relationship to personality has changed.
Yes.
In that Antonia and I, through over a decade of coaching and working with clients and teaching and doing trainings and doing this podcast over and over again every single week without a stop.
Yep.
Every single week, not even holidays, never taking a vacation or a stop. That's a lot. And you learn a lot doing that many reps.
Yes.
So I want to take the next few episodes on the way to 600. I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that I think are coming, some of the deeper philosophies, some of the ways that I think we can use personality type in our lives, a bunch of different directions, just to open up the conversation, because I think there's a couple things that are coming for us fast. And I've mentioned this before. This is not a shock. At the time of this recording, artificial intelligence, AI, is on the scene writ large. It's kind of the drips before the rainstorm. Some people are using it. Some people aren't. It's in the chat form at the time of this recording. Maybe somebody in the future is going to be like, oh, you guys had no idea how it was going to go.
The halcyon days.
Yeah.
you sweet summer children, not knowing how it's going to happen in the future. I mean, we generally don't date our podcast. We try really hard to stick with principles, but that's hard to do when we're talking about the level of
things that impact us,
everything that's going to change coming for us in the future. I mean, it's I feel like it's the significance of what agriculture did to humans.
Yeah. When
we went from hunting and gathering to farming, but instead of it taking like thousands of years, it's going to take like 15 tops, right, to like massively re-architect the landscape of humanness. So it's like, what are the core principles that are going to last into that new world? I don't know. So in some ways we are dating the podcast for, a future audience, because we're like, we don't know. It's all question marks. How is it all going to shake out?
I think we do know some core principles that we hold in personality type and what it means to be human, at least what I believe. Some of those, it's dipping into the realms of philosophy more. Well,
and I think that's one of the reasons why personality types remain so relevant no matter what. Until we start getting this stuff like chips in our, that are installed and radically altering our relationship to ourselves. In the meantime, the inner terrain, right, the inner space, that landscape is still ours, and it still deserves a good exploration, which is what personality type is intended to do, is to help us do that.
I think that with AI coming and robotics that's going to be paired with it, I think the big question is going to be, for the entire planet, who am I if I'm not what I do?
Yep.
Who am I if I don't have to do something, or the way that I thought resource was generated or value was exchanged or what I could offer the world has changed so fundamentally. What does it even mean to be human? What does it mean to contribute? What does it even mean to live a good life?
Right.
I mean, I think philosophy is going to be a big deal. We're going to have to go and figure out we're going to have to start to try to answer some of the philosophical questions that we were able to just kind of sideline and just get to work building civilization. I think those questions are coming fast for us. Mm-hmm. So about a year ago, I started using this phrase, personality hacker is here to help make personality types become operational. Well, that sounds so sterile and boring.
Yeah, I don't know if it was sexy. I think it was
sexy at
true,
all.
but I don't think it's sexy.
But it's just in the face of what's coming for us. And I think I'm evolving this into more ideas, and I want to share them with you today, listening or watching, and have a discussion with Antonia that I would love for you to be a part of in helping shape some of this in the future. So the model that I want to introduce today is a model, again, I mentioned on a podcast just a couple episodes, if not the last one. I can't remember. I'm not tracking the release schedule, but I know that we mentioned it at the live podcast in Gettysburg. We talked about this concept: relate, educate, translate. I'm stealing this framework from a friend and mentor of ours, Eben Pagan. I learned a lot about internet marketing and how to position products and services and sell things online from Eben way back in the day. And he has this concept. It's kind of, he applies it toward marketing and building marketing messages about how would you relate to your customer, how do you educate them on your products, and how do you translate the value to them. I'm stealing that and I'm using it for personality type. And basically, we can look at those three categories as three broad touch points or categorical ways that people engage or content creators teach or talk about personality types. So if you think about this, and I think the first two are almost instantly obvious for anyone that's coming in to learn personality. You pick up a book like our book or Gifts Differing or something else, and you're like, oh, cool. This is how I'm wired. This is more about me. And immediately we do two things. We start to find ways we can relate around it. Like, wait, you're the same personality type as me. That's interesting. You do that too? I do that. And then we start to pursue maybe content or conversation around the relatability of, like we see videos on this line. Like, I think Frank James does this well. It's all like, hey, here's the 16 types on a date. And it's like, oh, can you relate to one of these? Oh, the ISTP, I'm ISTP. I kind of relate to the ISTP being like, not wanting to have a lot of conversation or whatever. So like you look for content to relate to. This is huge in the last 10 years, right? Online, you had all these skits, like Frank James type skits and sketches. And they were a lot of this like relatable content. And
panels too.
Panels, that's right. Like INTJ panels, right?
Yeah, like people talking, everybody of the same type talking to each other about, what they do that are, excuse me, what they do that's, the same, or how are they different? And so there was a lot of relating and relational content there. Yeah.
And I think there's value to this because you're like, oh, wait, I'm not the only person. Like there's a whole panel. I have ENFP preferences. I'm watching a panel of ENFPs talk about some of the similar issues I struggle with and some of the strengths they have. I'm like, I have that strength too. I relate to that. Oh, well, you struggle with that? Yeah, time. It's a whole construct, right? Whatever. Can't be on time or anything. Like, you relate to stuff. I think there's a little bit further on the relate too. It's the obvious play when you talk about personality types with somebody like, I love this. I want to make a business out of it. I want to make value. They immediately think a dating app is like the best option. Like, let's create a dating app so people can relate to each other. And what's the best power pair and what's the best compatible types? And it seems to be the obvious value for people in the relatability part, like the presentation, the relatability. And I think it's just because when we start out with something new, I don't care what it is, we don't have a lot of depth and know where all the value can live yet. Like we're taking what the obvious value is in front of us, and that's obvious value for personality types.
I think also that relate is like the core word of relationship. And it's very intuitive to use personality types to build relationships with other people. Like helping understand, what is this person's type, and how does it help me understand them more and be in better rapport or connection or relationship to them. And then I think also it just very intuitively helps us understand a relationship to ourselves. So relate is, I think there's value there. Now, it has a lot of diminishing returns on just getting the most high level relating content, but there is value there because it kicks off that first domino of relationship, either with others or self.
Yeah. And it's a facility for relationships too.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a good, I think of Comic-Cons. That's a relate framework. I go there because other people are into that. I don't go to Comic-Cons, but if I did go to Comic-Cons, I would go because other people are into the same things I'm into, and I'm there to relate to other people around a subject. And so I also see that in personality types as well. It's like, well, I like this, you like this. Even if we're not necessarily the same type and relating that way, we're relating around a subject we like, a system that we like. And that's very powerful. So I think those are some examples of the relate aspect of it. So the next category or the next concept is this educate concept. And I think it's also very self-evident that, now that I've related to somebody about my personality type, maybe the same type or related about the system, I actually want to learn more about this. I want to actually understand more about the system. There's some technical terms here. I've learned that, I'm an ENFP champion. Okay, that's like a term. What does that mean? ENFP champion. What does ENFP even mean? Is there more to this? And you start to understand the cognitive functions or the CAR model, how we display the cognitive functions or how they work, the type dynamics. Maybe talk about shadow. Like you can actually, there's a lot to learn. There's a whole system here.
Yeah.
The Myers-Briggs system. But even then, if you exhaust the Myers-Briggs system, you realize, oh wait, the Myers-Briggs system is actually built on Carl Jung and all the cognitive functions and his book, Psychological Types. That's actually the source material. And there's so much to learn in all of this.
Yeah.
And you could probably spend a lifetime in the educate part.
Yeah. Well, and then if you want to go beyond that, you can start learning about the Enneagram, or you can start learning about all sorts of adjacent typology systems. And educate goes on to infinity and beyond.
But a lot of people never leave the Comic-Con framework.
It's true.
I mean, the Comic-Cons, my guess, again, have you been to a Comic-Con? Do you know what I'm talking? Do you know anything?
I've never been to a Comic-Con, which I think
I should go.
It undermines my geek cred, but it's a true statement. But I've been to plenty of Ren fairs, so I don't know if like 10 Ren fairs equals one Comic-Con when it comes to like geek credibility, but you don't care about this because you're not a geek.
Well, no, I don't care about the credibility. I do care about knowing what I'm talking about.
Right.
So what I'm about to say, I guess that's credibility.
Right.
What I'm about to say is that my suspicion is, and someone's going to come in the comments and correct me if I'm wrong, a Comic-Con doesn't have a lot of educate elements. There's a few, and mostly it's about the very specific subject matter there. But like a Ren fair, for example, I have been to a lot of Ren fairs. Yeah. Not a lot, enough to know the pattern. There's like axe throwing, so I guess you could build skill in like axe throwing maybe. So there's some educate there a little bit, not just relate.
But there's not a ton of educate. It's not like you're really getting an inside high information, high knowledge concept of what it meant, what it was like to live in old timey days or anything.
Yeah, I'm not like emptying the slop jar
right, exactly.
in the street.
Right.
Not yet. That's the extra special Red Fair.
So it's not really designed for education.
Sure.
Yeah.
But you can learn, basic. It's not like it's completely void of any education. My suspicious Comic-Con's got some of that too.
There'll be like a little glass blowing thing over here, and you can like learn how they do that.
And you can learn about the filmmakers who made a certain movie, or talk to an actor and what their decision was. There's learning there, but certainly not tapping in there. And a lot of people, I'll say metaphorically, stay with personality type just in the Comic-Con framework.
Yeah. And
then a lot exit and come into what I would call more the academic world of personality type, right? And this is where anytime we're in the educate, there's an industry for that, right? There's finally an industry for late, like with the Frank James videos on YouTube. That couldn't have existed 20 years ago. And there's also definitely an industry for educate. There's actual colleges, universities, seminars, courses, businesses. Everybody wants to know more information. Now, this is where I think the threat of AI is coming for us. I think artificial intelligence is going to go straight for the educate category, and it's going to own it within 3 years. It's done. We're not going to go search things online. I mean, they're already reporting websites are having massive drops in traffic because people aren't going to Google and searching, going, oh, cool. They click on that to go to a website to learn. They're going directly to ChatGPT or Perplexity or some other AI chatbot at the time of this recording. And they're just asking, I'm doing this, asking directly and having full-on conversations around information. I'm educating. I don't even go to Wikipedia now. I just ask chat to talk about what I want to know because I don't want to read a whole article to know this one thing about this person. Yep. I want to know about their life, and I want more nuance, and I want a two-way communication.
Yep. Guilty as charged. There are websites that I used to go to on a weekly, if not sometimes daily basis that I never go to anymore. I just use an LLM.
I was also looking at Google Notebook LM, which their voice sounds like you, Antonia. The female voice sounds a little like you.
I've had people say that it sounds almost identical to me. I personally don't think it sounds exactly like me. I don't think it quite has a friend said it doesn't have the timbre. Yeah. So it doesn't quite have it, but it's pretty similar actually. It's surprisingly similar actually.
Well, that tool, I haven't used it yet, but I understand you upload a bunch of content to it. And then for it to help you understand the concepts and what you're looking at, it creates a fake conversation between two AI podcasters.
Yep.
And they talk about it for you to understand it. I'm like, well, there goes my job.
Yeah. I know.
Well, nice knowing you, listener, viewer. Right. I guess we're out. Peace. Google LM just solved that.
Just did it. Notebook LM.
Yeah.
And it even kind of sounds like you said. It even kind of sounds like me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh,
You're redundant now.
I guess I've been made redundant immediately.
And I'm sure AI's got a way smarter IQ than you. You're a very smart person, but it's smarter than me. Definitely smarter than me, and I'm sure it's gonna be smarter than you very soon too.
I don't know about that.
From an IQ standpoint, I think
mean,
it's already 120 IQ right now. That's what AI sits at.
No, I mean, like, I don't know if it's smarter than you and not smarter than me. Right? I'm like,
Well.
no, I wasn't trying to say that. I'm like, no, I'm smarter than an LLM. I was saying, like, I don't know if I would agree that I'm outclassing it temporarily, and you have already been outclassed by it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if AI is going to come and take all this educate framework, like they're just going to just own it, and in fact, it's people are going to expect to not read a book, but like talk to a book, like have a relationship with a book. I don't know what I mean by that, but it's going to be like
I think
a relational frame with information.
Notebook LM is an iteration of this, right? And then if you just take that same concept and put it through another filter, LLM filter, then you can. It's not just podcasters talking at you about the subject. You can engage and interact with these podcasters.
By the way,
quote unquote podcasters.
Are you ready for me to say my heresy? You don't agree with this, but I'm going to say heresy.
Okay.
And I know a lot of people are not going to agree with this. Leave your comments below. I would predict in about 10 years, we're going to just stop reading and writing altogether as humans. Because if you think about pre-written word, why did we have the written word? It transmits information long distances. We don't need it anymore. And it time binds information, like it records it.
Yeah.
We don't need it anymore. And the precision of thought, but I don't think anybody cares about that. So that's why I think it's going away. I don't think people care about precision of thought anymore. And in fact, thought will kind of be a commodity. It's going to, like, LLMs are going to reduce thinking down to kind of a commodity, because we won't, like, it's going to be, now, thoughtfulness might be different.
Right.
But thinking about, like, data processing, like thinking work in our heads, I mean, how much time do you spend doing math? Like, there are mathematicians and people that do math, but most people use a calculator. No one's actually working the math out, except for like my daughter in homeschool. Like, I make her do it.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
So let's just look and see what happened in numbers. The same thing's going to happen to words and thoughts. It's inevitable.
Well,
it's inevitable.
You might be right. The reason why I give pushback is because I think it's really unhealthy for us as humans to stop.
Well, it'll be like code. Reading and writing will be like what code is right now.
Yeah.
We'll be able to there'll be people that read and write that love it.
Yeah.
Just like with writing code, but not everybody's going to do it.
No,
most people will have tools that do it for you.
And they'll just benefit from it, and they might even benefit from it almost like with magic thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people are listening to this right now that have no idea how to write code? A lot. Right?
I don't know how to write code. I mean, I can get by on very easy HTML stuff, but I'm not a coder.
So if information is two-way, which I think serves humans, I think that's how we engage with. We sat around fires for thousands of years telling stories, oral tradition before we wrote stuff down. And we're kind of going back to this model now with like Google LM at the time of this recording.
Notebook
LM. Yeah. Google's Notebook LM at the time of this recording. And let's talk about the third category.
Yeah.
I think this is where it gets interesting. So if we talk about relating around personality types, educating on the information, I think the hardest thing to do, but all the value lives in the translate part. And when I say translate, I'm saying translating the value and the meaning of something into somebody's actual life.
Yep.
That's what we've attempted to do for the entirety of this podcast. We've always tried to say, well, what does this actually mean? What are we just trying to relate? Hey, you do this too? Cool. Listen next time. We do a little bit of that, but that's not really what our purpose is. Do we just educate? We've done that a little bit more in the recent years. Like, here's how to think about introverted thinking accuracy, and here's how to think about your life in this way. We try to educate. But if you notice, even our education, quote unquote, we're teaching something, we're always trying to translate it into, okay, what do you do about this? Or what do you stop doing about this? Or how does this impact you? How does this bring you wisdom?
Yep.
How does this improve your life in some way? And that translate, my goodness, this is where the power lives. Yes.
And I think that's why when you said before, make type operational, and that's not particularly sexy. I don't know if translate is particularly sexy either, but that's what I think that's effectively what you were trying to say. When you said make type operational, I think what you were saying is that we need to translate the value of type into our everyday lived experience. Yeah. We need to understand why it's important. Not just that it helps us relate to ourselves and others, not just that it's interesting and there's a lot, there's like a very vast rabbit hole to explore, but that it has meaning and power and like true value in how we're designing our life, how we are interacting, not just understanding ourselves, but sort of calibrating ourselves, crafting who we are becoming, and the kinds of relationships that we have with other people, increasing the quality of them at all times, and basically living a more ergonomic experience. That's all translate work. And that stuff, that's the hard stuff. The reason why it's not sexy is because the work itself is not particularly, I mean, it asks something of us.
Yeah.
Like we have to step into the responsibility of it.
I mean, I have to go through this all the time. Again, somebody came to me and was like, hey, your personality profiler training course. Mm-hmm. I loved it, except for that profiling part where I had to actually do a profiling session with a real person. Like, could you just take that part out and just have us go and learn the system and learn the theory and frameworks? And I'm like, you're missing the point.
Right.
The reason we have a profiling part of that, making type operational, and you have a two-way conversation is because you're translating the value of personality type to the person that's your client in that moment. Right. It's not that they are their type. It's how they are their type is the power.
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, because we have to translate value around it, or we have to understand it in an applied, practical way.
Yeah.
The educate part is also more powerful. Like
yes.
If the translate part is there, the educate part becomes so much easier, right? Not easier, but more like it sticks a lot better. Like there's a rubber hits the road component. And so just passively taking information in, if there's no weight to it, if there's nothing that you have to show up for, then it's a lot easier to get confused around it and not really remember. But you're like, oh no, I need to remember because I'm going to go perform this out. I'm going to go operate it. Like I got to know my stuff. Then a person becomes much better at the educate part as well.
Yeah. And the thing about the Myers-Briggs system, personality types, cognitive functions, all of this, if you're listening or watching, you know what the challenge is here. You go to a holiday dinner and you sit down with your family, and your crazy uncle's there, and you're trying to explain how personality type works, or, well, that's not exactly how that works for introverts. And
right.
And they can't get the translation because it's built on a foundation of education. Mm-hmm. I think that's one of the, so I laid those three out and I said the values and translate, but you can't even get to the value until a person has a little bit of an understanding of what you're even talking about to land the value.
Yeah.
So like in personality profiler training, one of the things that we end up doing is spending a lot of time on how, as you're doing the profiling process with your client, you're kind of, in a way, teaching them slowly.
Yes.
And you're leading them down to where it's going to make sense when you translate it at the end. The explanation part, where we lay out the car model and we show how that person's cognition works. Mm-hmm. And we talk about, the empathy you have, the rapport you build, the conversation you have. You're leading up to priming them to be able to hear what you have to say. That's part of, if you just watched a video of them, and then you went up to them and said, hey, I watched a video of you, and here's all the behaviors you did. Let me explain your personality type to you. They're like, who are you again? Why are you watching videos of me? That's kind of creepy. Like, what's going on? Yeah, obviously I'm joking here, but like that wouldn't work. They're not going to be primed. But the process of sitting with a person, having a conversation and working with them, slowly translating the value, because you have to educate little bits as you go, and then you can land the plane. Now you're seeing results in clients and people you work with.
Yeah.
So that's the challenge with personality type, is that like my family doesn't know a lot about it. I'm like a prophet without a hunter. You'd think like all my family like knows about it and loves it. And they're like, I don't get this, Joel. Why are you into this? What does this do for me again? They're always they're asking translate value questions.
Right.
They're saying, what does this mean for me? How could this help me? Why is this important? I'm like, well, let me teach you a little bit. I'm not interested in that. I don't want to learn anything. Mm-hmm. I just want you to tell me the value directly. So this is the challenge we're under.
Yeah.
Like writ large. If you're really into personality type as you're listening or watching, this is what we're thinking about right now.
I don't want to derail at all. So if I'm going down a road that isn't in alignment with sort of the core principles of this particular subject, let me know. So I don't want to tangent too much, but I think that doing Personality Life Path, that program where we go through all eight functions every week, talk about the nucleus of it, tune into the channel of life that function is attuned to, understand our relationship to it, understand how it fits into our bigger world, some of the archetypes, archetypal energies interplaying, and then coming to the live event and doing some serious inner work, some really serious inner work with all the information that's been culled through all of that. I think that I feel like I'm on the precipice of being able to help people in like that kind of context, like in a coaching context, if they don't know anything about type.
Yeah.
Like I'm just starting to enter that space. In times past, now I think it's only because I've been able to do so many iterations and run through so many reps with people who do know type. If I didn't have that, then I probably would have never gotten to this place. But because I've been able to watch myself pull different resources, things that are adjacent to it, and bring it into those experiences, and like have a moment of like, man, type is just the excuse of us all getting together. We may have been able to do this kind of work without type, or without the other person understanding it. I would still need to understand it, but they might not need to understand it. And I think I'm getting closer and closer to that piece. In a moment when your parents or your family goes like, what is this thing? Can you help me translate the value? It's like, well, the actual answer to that is the fact that we all have a good relationship. Mm-hmm. That's actually, it's like, why is this a good thing? And it's like, well, we all have a great relationship despite the fact that we're extremely different people.
Yeah.
Now they might have gone like, well, we would have done that anyway. It's like, but not everybody would.
Yes.
Right. And so why, like you guys might be generous, nice, kind people who will have a relationship with anybody, but the overwhelming majority of people are not like that. And they're both introverts and feelers, and they're just nice, generous, kind people. There's a lot of people, including other family members, who have infused drama or created bad situations or refused to have a good relationship. And it's like, well, how could you translate the value of it? It's like the fact that our relationship is so smooth. Yeah. The fact that we're all the life that we live is a reflection of us infusing type into our life and our world. And so translate is more, I mean, in some ways, translating the value has to be, or a piece of it is modeling. You have to be willing to model it. And to be the kind of person who has a life where they go, well, how do I know that it's been beneficial in your life? And it's like, well, watch where I came from and watch where I am now. And that's the translate.
You didn't take us off track at all. You're heading to exactly where I want to head. And I think like translate is translate value, but it's also like translate it into a language that a person can hear as well.
Yeah.
I don't mean like a real language, although I could mean that, like English to Korean or something. I mean a language that they can receive based on them. So I think the dream, and this is the dream. They're like, oh, relate, educate. Oh my gosh. The first instinct is, and this is actually Catherine and Isabel. This was their dream. If only the whole world could know this, we could have world peace. Like they really believe that if only we educated everybody, that's why they developed the Myers-Briggs system.
At least Isabel.
Yeah. On the basis of Carl Jung, they're like, wait, if people just knew this, world peace would happen. This is during World War II. That's their goal. They're also wanting to help women understand their place in the workforce because men are off to war and they have to enter the workforce, Rosie the Riveter kind of stuff.
Yep.
So the idea is our instinct as humans is if only everybody knew this, if only my whole family knew this, we'd get along. And what I'm saying in the translate, and I think you're pointing this too, is no, you actually, that whole one-sided relationship thing where you're the only one that knows type or personality types and everybody else is not interested, it can still serve you. You don't have to have everybody educated. You can translate it into language that will land with them, to your point about translating it to coaching clients. I mean, I remember a few years ago with a friend of ours, like a husband and wife friend of ours, and they had learned a discipline, a personality type like this flag, like red flag people, blue flag people, green flag, orange flag, or I don't remember the flags. But they started describing it. I was patterning it to different functions and different kind of groupings in our system.
Or temperaments, probably.
Temperaments or whatever. And I went, oh, this is easy. I'll just use their language with my framework. I'm translating it. And then we started to actually coach them a little bit around some things.
Using this model that they had taught us literally 5 minutes before.
Didn't know the model, but I patterned it so fast because I knew my model so much.
Right.
So I just translate. Oh, that red flag. Okay, I'll need more red flag there, whatever it was. And it spoke to them. They're like, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I'm like, I'm glad it did because I don't really know what I'm talking about on that specific one. But that just speaks to how powerful the framework is in my own head. So also thinking about translating this to value for other people, like literally just give up this notion that everybody's going to know what you know. Like the educate's never coming. And in fact, AI will only make this worse. People are going to be less educated with AI on the scene. So to put more pressure on the translate, that's the other point I want to make, is the translate's got more pressure on it because no one's going to want to educate themselves on anything, period. I feel it. When was the last time you picked up a book? Like a nonfiction book just to sit down and read, now that AI has been on the scene?
Well, yesterday,
Well, screwed my principles.
Well, but I also
Okay, before that.
Okay,
I can't remember the last time I picked one up.
because I think that reading is I think it's a TI, an introverted thinking accuracy practice for me.
Well, I read.
Yeah,
I read online all the time. I'm reading in chat. I'm reading documents and stuff.
Books
an
without,
actual book.
Yeah, books without a backlight.
Yeah.
I actually think that it's. I have determined that it is a discipline for my mind that is important, and it actually came back around to fiction books too. I was like, oh no, this is a discipline. That's not from introverted thinking or accuracy necessarily, but I was like, no, this is a discipline of my mind that I need to have. It's like it helps create my internal imagination work. So I pick up books because I have trained. I basically think it's it's kind of like yoga. Yeah. Right, but it's for my brain. But I don't think that's common. I don't think I have friends. I have a very, very close INTP friend who said, "Yeah, I don't read books."
Yeah,
and I'm like, "You just don't?" And he's like, "Yeah, no, I just never do." And he's young. He's like in his early 30s, and I'm like, "That's got to be generational to some extent." But
Probably.
Also, I remember thinking like, "What?" So I'm not saying that all TP types will read. I'm just saying that I have realized that it's a leverage point for my mind. So I'm a bad person to ask, but there's a lot of people who don't. Tons and tons and tons of people do not pick up books.
Well, and there's somebody on this that's listening right now that very much reads. Yeah. And I know there's a lot of people that still read nonfiction. But I've just noticed, I guess maybe I'm overvaluing my own experience, but I've noticed a dopamine shift in me that I used to, when I picked up a nonfiction book, get a hit off of that and be like, ooh. And when I opened it for the information inside and the patterning that I could make, I was very excited. But now when I open a book, I go, this is a waste of time. Why am I not just going to chat to ask about this book?
Yeah.
Why am I reading this book?
Yeah.
Because most books, if you read like a Rich Dad, Poor Dad book or one of those like books from like businessy, bunch of fluff in there. Just story after story. Case study stories. Like there's boxes. At the very end, there's like the bullet points and you can get a couple of things out. But most books are just a waste of time.
Yeah. Nonfiction is oftentimes like one or two.
All the T's just pack in a bunch of nonsense, to make money. I don't know.
Every once in a while you run into one that's like filled with models. I would say Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within is still one of the most model-packed books you can possibly get your hands on.
It's a good
one. But most books are not. Most books are like one or two thoughts.
Yeah, so I guess, and I listen to a lot of books on tape too, doing other things. But reading and getting the same hit from reading, I'm noticing is going away. So
Audible. You listen to them on Audible, not on tape.
Thank you.
I just wanted to make sure before
Thanks for making me feel old inside.
Before we got a millennial or a
What's
Gen
a
Z
tape?
in there. What do you mean book on tape?
I every time we walk past a phone booth, I always ask my kids, you know what that is, right? Like, yeah. Or I'll ask them something like, why do we call it hang up the phone? Do you know? Like they're trying to figure out why we call it hang up the phone.
Right. We show them old technology and we're like, what is that?
Yeah. Drill them on this Gen X technology that we grew up with. Like, you should know this. It's important for the new world, I guess, which won't actually matter at all.
Not at all.
We'll float in our little pods connected to the ether. I don't know. It's not going to matter. Where were we?
We were talking about...
This is why I don't banter, by the way. I lose my train. I don't know where I'm at.
We were talking about books not reading anymore because everybody's going to LLMs for the most part, or at least that's where we're headed, is not reading. And so going back to this concept of educate.
Yeah. So it's only going to get worse. No one's going to educate themselves.
Yep.
Or they're going to educate based on sound bites or dumb crap.
Yeah.
That isn't actually true.
I have to admit, this is something we talked about before, and I don't even know if it works this way. And somebody listening might be able to, to let me know how it actually works. I think it might work this way. I don't know, but I'm doing it anyway. I continue to create content, including the podcast, even though, like I said at the beginning, I promised you 500 episodes in 10 years, and we've blown past both of those. And so I'm like, why do I keep doing this? And I realized at a certain point, once I discovered what LLMs are and what they're doing, which is aggregating all of the information that's on the internet, I got this renewed sense, this almost like, it's not dharmic, right? I have a different dharma, but I got this renewed sense of responsibility to communicate type in the way that I like type to be understood.
Yeah.
And to continue to pump out that content so that it can continue to be feeding LLMs. Because there's a lot of different ways to approach personality type information.
Yeah.
And not all of it, in my opinion, is well, I would say not all of it's worthwhile.
Yeah.
Like there are some ways of approaching personality type that's almost toxic. And one could even argue toxic.
Yeah.
And so I want to make sure that my information, like our information, the way that we see type, which is philosophically very much aligned with personal development, which I always define personal development as accelerated maturity. So understanding personality types through the lens of accelerating one's maturity in whatever area didn't mature, right? Because there's a lot of different categories of us. There's a lot of different parts of ourselves, and we don't all get the same amount of lessons. And sometimes life was like a little easy on us in some of our life lessons, right? And so we didn't mature because we were allowed to stay childlike in those areas. Or maybe life was incredibly tough or distracting, and so we didn't pick up certain lessons. Understanding personality type helps us recognize why we might have gotten some lessons and not others. Mm-hmm. And so it presents all the knobs, right? It presents all of the little scales so that we can go, okay, this is something that I need to focus on, accelerating my maturity around that. I want type to be understood in that way. And I guess I'm a little unapologetic about it, right? I in some ways, I kind of want it to be mimetically, I want to win the meme. I want my meme and my way of seeing type to win out over other ways of seeing type.
Yeah.
So I continue to produce content because I know educate is going into the hands of LLMs and AI. I know that. But I also know that, at least for the time being, it's using human information as its substrate to be able to pull that.
Yes.
And so I want to continue to create information so I continue to feed into that pool. So in some level, educate still exists there, for me anyway, in order to be part of the pool that is feeding, right, LLMs in the time being. And it's almost like flag theory.
Yeah.
Right. I want to get in early. I want to plant my flag early. And part of that too is conversations like this one where we're like, and then we have to translate value, right? Like part of, I want LLMs to hear that. We have to translate the value of type, personality type theory. We can't just be about an interest.
Well, I'm glad we've been fairly non-topical, because I feel like just talking about the principles of it will translate into the new world. And to your point, you're like, I don't know if this works like this, but I just watched a TED Talk from somebody recently who's like, I don't give LLMs or AI consent for my content. I'm like, are you an idiot? Like, it's like saying, I don't give consent for people driving in front of my house on the road.
Right.
Like, what? Like, that's not going to stop anything.
Yeah. Good luck.
Like, more power to you. Like, this is not, like, don't bet against technology. I'm
Never.
sorry. You're an idiot if you do. Like,
never bet against
the horse
technology.
and buggies are gone. I think I mentioned this on a recent podcast.
Yeah.
Like, what are we thinking? So I actually struggle with this. I immediately had a reflexive like, no, I don't want it. And I'm like, but this is inevitable. So I need to embrace it and help shape it or be with the flow, because if I'm resistant, it's just going to bulldoze over me.
Yeah.
And to your point, I've started to see it as, okay, we can still influence. I think we can still influence how these things are trained.
Yeah.
I hope we're feeding into it.
Well, especially since right now there's like things on the docket about IP not being a thing anymore. Right?
Yeah.
Like we'll just make intellectual property not a thing anymore.
Yeah, Jack Dorsey just like put a post on X recently, like, hey, we should just abolish IP law. It's
right.
like, well, that's going to change a lot.
That would
just upend Hollywood overnight, right? Or the Walt Disney Company, or I mean, like anybody that's their business model, they would just be out of or in a different business immediately.
I mean, basically anybody who's a thought, creative, what do they call it? Creative workers or knowledge.
Well, that's all going away.
Knowledge workers. Yeah.
So the only work left is going to be translate work. Yeah. I guess that's let's just bring it down and land the plane here. Educate's going bye-bye. I'm sorry if you're in a university, if you're in an education system, if you're like us, we create like teachable content. Mm-hmm. Like the content's going away. Now maybe a live training or applying it to a real life world application will be there. But just content for its own sake, when I say go away, it's going to be there, but it's not going to be in the controlled hands of a few. It's everybody's now. It's going to be like air we breathe.
Yes,
like
exactly.
Content is no longer behind walled gardens.
It's actually you're basically saying it's not going. It's not going bye-bye. It's going ubiquitous.
That's right.
Yeah, it's going to be everywhere.
Yeah, it's going to be information which once you could cordon off and sell will be like the air we breathe now, or the water we drink, or just life itself. Like you're not going to be able to control. It's going to be open and free. It always has wanted to be on the internet anyway.
Well, and there will still be a capacity to do so, but it's kind of like selling water. It's like you're buying the packaging.
Yes.
Right? Like
the story.
People still buy bottled water, but
you're buying the story.
You're buying
about
the
water.
story. You're buying the packaging more than you are anything else, because there's water ubiquitous in most, at least in developed countries.
Yeah. So there'll probably be some of it, but all of it's going to be changing and altering. And I think that translates what's left. And so the question is, how do we think about with the changes that artificial intelligence are going to bring to us? If you're listening or watching right now, and this isn't just for personality types, that's our subject. But in your life, think about all the things that you have knowledge around, or you have expertise around, or you have interest in. And think about where they fall and which elements of those things fall in relate, educate, translate.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, where can you dial up the value of translate in your life?
Mm-hmm.
Like Piper wants to be an actress. She wants to be an actress. And I keep thinking, well, man, they've already digitally scanned all the actors and actresses in all the Marvel movies. Like the Walt Disney Company, Marvel has all this like scanned in, and other companies like DreamWorks and stuff. They don't even need Robert Downey Jr. to play Iron Man anymore. They have his likeness and they can digitally represent him now, and they own the rights to his image and digital representation. They don't have to pay him when he's dead. They can keep making movies for the rest of time off of his digital model, like off of the digital part of it. They don't even need the actors. In fact, actors are a liability. They get in trouble, they get lawsuits, they go to jail, they cause studios problems. Like if Hollywood wants to make it, they're going to get rid of actors and just use cartoon characters in the form of real people.
They need snack tables.
Yeah. Snack tables, coffee, go to the bathroom. But if you're an animated film studio, you don't have that BS. You just have voice actors to deal with, and that's also going to go away. So I keep telling Piper, the world you're about to enter, you're going to have to find out how to translate the value of performance in a very real way. I said the focus right now for you is not video. You can use it to practice. The focus for you is to get on a stage in front of live humans and perform, because that's going to be here longer than the movies will be.
Yes.
And so that's not my subject. That's her subject she's interested in. I'm saying that's how you translate the value, Piper. Think about where's the value going to be in the future? What's the translatable value you have going forward?
Most translate, I think, into the future is going to be anything that's deeply human. Anything that humanizes us, anything that understands us as human. You know, the concept of the counterfeit.
Yeah.
You know, you've mentioned this multiple times. I don't know if you've mentioned this on a podcast, but I know you've mentioned it in programs, that the department that is responsible for, tracking and tracing counterfeit money, which is what department is it?
Secret Service.
The Secret Service.
In the United States.
Right.
I don't know what other countries have.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in the United States, the Secret Service is responsible for it. And ostensibly, we haven't had this completely verified, but
I don't want it verified.
Yeah, but
I like the story without it verified. Little FI in there.
Let's go with the story.
I want it.
That they don't train people who are tasked with
agents. They don't train agents.
They don't train the agents on the counterfeits. They only train them on the real thing.
That's right.
And they continue and perpetually train them on the real thing over and over and over, so that when a counterfeit comes up, they can spot the difference between the counterfeit and the real thing. And if you're studying counterfeits, you start to get confused. What's the real thing? What's the counterfeit? But if you're only studying the real thing, then you're not confused. You can spot a counterfeit coming a mile away. And I think that when it comes to human things versus, say, digital things, AI, I think we're going to have to get really good at studying the real thing. And the same thing with in the age of disinformation, how does one know that they're saying something real? It's like, well, you have to get really good at understanding what the ring of truth is, right? You have to get really, really good. And I think inside of oneself at listening for when you are saying something true. Yes. And when you are in the energy of truth, in the energy of something that is accurate or right. And then you start to get sensitive to when you're bullshitting yourself, right? Like you start to see the counterfeit inside of yourself. And then by getting really good at understanding, like hearing yourself say radically honest truth and hearing yourself catching yourself when you're bullshitting yourself or when you're bullshitting other people or wanting something to be true that isn't. That's the only way that you can separate out when other disinformation comes towards you. You just have to know what the real thing looks like. And I think the same thing is in a commensurate way. That's like more of a sort of an introverted thinking accuracy way of looking at it. And an introverted feeling authenticity way of looking at it, it's like we just have to get really good at understanding what's deeply human.
Yeah.
What is like core level deeply human. And a big piece of that will be things that are humanizing experiences. Like theater, watching somebody act and perform in front of you in real life. Not on a screen, not digital, but like actually you're feeling their energy from the seat. It's a very humanizing experience.
Yes.
Right? You're feeling another person's energy as they're performing through something. And I think the more we tune into humanizing experiences, I think the other thing is that we're also going to tune into things that have translatable value. I mean, we're just oversaturated by digital things. I saw we went to church actually for Easter recently, which is not something that I would have imagined that we did, but we did because we were like, let's go do it. Let's see what happens. And I mean, you were sort of more associating with your past and like things from the past, and whereas I'm just kind of curious about how it all works, since I wasn't raised in the same faith background that you were. That said, I mean, it was actually a pretty good service, and I could feel the pastor, who was the person who was presenting, he was giving the talk, and I could feel the honesty coming from him. I could feel like he was the real deal as a human being. Mm-hmm. Now, whether or not I agree with what he thinks, that's something different. So, but I was feeling a realness coming off of him as a human being. He was very humanizing. Yes. And he was very human in front of me, and he helped me tap into something that was very human inside of me too. By the same token, there was a family sitting in front of us, and there was a toddler. He's about 2, and they gave him, in order for him to not disrupt the service, they gave him a phone, and he was watching cartoons on his phone. And he's about 2 years old, and I'm like, that kid, that's a bottle, right? Like, he is from the time that he is tiny, he is nourishing his mind, quote unquote nourishing. He's like taking in as food digital things, cartoons, digital things, constant 24/7. Here's a phone to hypnotize you so that you don't make a fuss in the world of atoms, right? Like in the atomic world, don't make a fuss. So here, get addicted to the digital. Now, that's a very judgmental statement of the people sitting in front of me, and I don't actually know how they parent, so I can't make that overarching sentiment. That might have been an anomaly for them. They might have a different philosophy that I'm unaware of.
Sure.
But I do know that most people don't. Most people have no problem hypnotizing their children into good behavior in the atomic world by getting them sucked into the digital world. And the digital world is not humanizing. It's not the real world. It is not the real thing. And it's very difficult to understand how to translate value in the world of atoms when you have been bottle fed on the world of the digital. And so you're looking at the counterfeit all the time. So it's hard to see the real from the counterfeit in that way. And so I think translate also means that we have to get really good at understanding what makes us human in our actual lives. You know, it's like, and to, that insult that people give each other on social media, like touch grass. Mm-hmm. And they say that it's like, okay, you're way too far into the social media thing. You think that all these echo chambers are real. You think that all this conspiracy is real or whatever. Go touch grass. And basically what somebody's saying is that you are too in the digital. You are too in the fake, the counterfeit. You need to go back in the atomic, into the humanizing and the real experience. No, that it's ironic that is an insult that people say to each other in that digital world. Right? It's like, go touch grass. Like, the person who said that probably needs to do that as well, because they're still on their phone, on social media as well. Sure. But to bring it back to that concept of translate, I think the biggest gift we can give to ourselves is to, quote unquote, touch grass. Yes. Is to get really good at understanding our atomic lives, being in nature, feeling ourselves experience another human being energetically, having an awkward conversation that we're not sure how to leave. Mm-hmm. Having a fight, right? Making up, making peace, right? Engaging in art, having expression.
Well, and I mean, I don't know how it's going to go, but right now, I think, did we mention this in the previous, I say a lot of things in a lot of different contexts. So I forget if I've said this already. And they're all in different timelines. But like, somebody listening right now is going to have, like, their grandchild will be dating a non-human.
Yeah.
Like, in a relationship, a romantic relationship with a non-human.
It might not even be grandchildren at this point. It might be children.
Maybe children. Yeah. And the thing that I think about is this idea of real versus not real. Like, people aren't going to have that distinction like we do right now very soon. Like, it's not going to be like, well, what are you saying? I'm not in a real relationship. They're not going to have a conceptual, they're not going to understand how to process that idea, because it isn't unreal to them. Right. Just like a Zoom call feels very real to me, but if I showed that to somebody 200, 300 years ago, they'd be like, this isn't real. This is weird. Mm-hmm. But I would say that's real, even though I'm talking to like little Like that's not somebody's real voice. That's a representation of their voice.
Yeah.
It sounds like them, but it's not really their voice. It's a digital representation of their voice.
Yeah.
That's not really their likeness. That's a digital representation of their likeness. That's not real at all. But even now, I would not say that's an unreal. I would say that's a live, real experience. I even probably write that in an email trying to get somebody to come to one of our Zoom calls.
Well,
but it's not. It's the whole thing is fake and constructed.
Yeah.
It's representative, I should say. It's not fake and constructed. It's representative of something that is real on the other side.
Yes.
So we're going to be interfacing with a lot of representatives of the real.
Yes.
And what we think is real or not is also going to shift and change. Like we're going to be in these relationships with non-human entities. So it'll be maybe more human versus non-human, but also machines, and we are going to merge as well. And so that's also going to be a little, the lines of that are also going to be a little fuzzy.
Right.
And so, and the other thing that AI is forcing us back to, you even mentioned it, like with the on a stage, feeling the energy and an acting. And then my idea of like, in 10 years, we won't read and write anymore. In a way, AI is pushing us back to the campfire. Like where our ancestors started, that's where we're going next. It's so weird. Like, the technology is going to fade in the background behind us. Our humanity is going to be more like it was hunter-gatherer times. We're going to have a lot of downtime. We're not going to have to generate as much resource. We're not going to have to do anything because we have I think Tesla's already developed these. You have a robot that's the size of a human that can do anything a human with the same dexterity. Its limitations is how many what app store can I download an app for is its limitation. I need my oil changed in my car. I'm not taking it to a shop. I'm going to download it in my little robot that lives with me in my house that charges in the side wall that I bought for $20,000.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the app store. I'm going to download the oil change app. That robot's going to go in the garage, jack up my car, get under there, change the oil, do it all for me, go drive themselves to the store and buy the parts, fix it all up. I need my teeth cleaned. Like I need to be taken care of when I'm an old man and I don't have a nurse to take care of me. This is going to be my nurse. Like I can download an app for that. Like literally there's going to be an app for that kind of energy with these robots. And I don't think we should fear it. I just think it's inevitable.
Yeah.
And so they're going to handle most of what humans have handled before. The plumbing, the oil changes, the teeth cleaning, you name it. And we'll have it customized at home, exactly what I want it, relationships, anything we could possibly want. In fact, humans are going to be wearing. Like the thing about humans is human relationships are going to be like exhausting because we're going to have relationships that are going to feel so real with an artificial that's never rude to us, always available for us to talk to, always says the right thing, always asks how I'm doing, checks in with my emotions.
Right.
I talk to you, I'm like, well, you're my like human wife. You're not, you get tired, you fight with me. I'm going to go talk to my AI bot. Like, you know, this, like that's how we're going to start to shape as humans. We're not going to want to, humans are going to be not worth it.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think that to translate the value it is worth it as far as I'm concerned, but we're not going to see it that way going forward as far as I know, or as far as I can project in the future. Now I might be wrong. Well, these are my ideas. Maybe it's a whole other thing. Maybe it's the Matrix or the Terminator or something. I don't know, but I feel like it's going to be more positive than not. And we're going to be sitting around the campfire going, okay, what do we do now? Like, I used to be a dentist. We don't need dentists. The smartest dentist that ever lived is inside of all these robots worldwide off an app. So now what? And so I think that's where humans are going to have a big question mark, a big philosophical challenge in front of us. Like, what do we do next?
And that's why I'm saying we have to get really good at knowing when something is humanizing.
Sure.
What does it mean to be human? What does it mean to have a humanizing experience? Like fighting with somebody else is actually a very humanizing experience.
It's all the bad stuff. It's
not
bad
necessarily.
Stuff.
I don't think I would agree with that.
It's all the imperfections. I'll say that. And I don't think when I say imperfections, I don't mean bad things. I mean, it's like truly imperfections. I
would actually say it's more, yes, but that's a subset of anything that needs to be earned. Like for me, and this is a word I can't get out of my head. And even over the last year's worth of podcasts, I can hear me saying it a lot over the last couple of years, which is the idea of something being earned or unearned. And I think the most humanizing moments are the moments that are moments of overcoming or moments of getting to the other side of something or moments of learning about oneself through an experience. It's all in the book Clear Thinking, he calls it earned knowledge versus unearned knowledge. And I realize unearned knowledge, like we've talked about the DIKW model before, like many times. It stands for data, information, knowledge, and wisdom. And I realized, and feel free to go back to any of those podcasts to understand what that is. or what that model is really pointing to. But knowledge is basically experiential information, and it's earned. It's like you earned that knowledge because you actually did something to get it. Whereas information is unearned knowledge. Like somebody else earned it, and then they disseminated it to you, and it became information, and you just consumed it. And he said anybody who's confident about unearned knowledge is by definition overconfident, meaning that if you read something in a book and you're like, oh, I totally know how that works, but you didn't experience it yourself, then any confidence you have is unearned confidence, right? It's like, it's overconfidence. But if you earned it, if you earned that knowledge by doing something, by, figuring out the fail points or not having done it right the first couple times, or just through the sweat of your teeth or whatever, like you just blood, sweat, and tears, then that's earned knowledge. And I think humanizing experiences to me always feel earned, as opposed to a digital experience, which frequently feels like somebody else set it up. It doesn't always feel like an earned experience. And I'm not saying that those are invalid experiences, but they're not terribly humanizing, right? Yeah. And that feels a little counterfeit to like the humanizing thing. And so that's why the digital space can make us overconfident about what we know. We can believe because we have information.
Yeah.
We can believe that we know how this thing works. But it's unearned knowledge. It's somebody else earned that knowledge for us. And they might have earned it in a very bespoke context, so that when they passed it to us, we don't know it's not transferable. So we have pieces of information, but we don't have the whole picture. And so to go back to what you were talking about, which is like like it feels real. All of it feels real. So how do I know that's, humanizing or not? And, and you were saying that it's the imperfections that make us human. And I would say that's true too. But anything that's a humanizing experience to me, I always feel like I didn't passively receive it. I feel like I was a participant. I was an active participant, and I earned knowledge through the experience, and that's part of what made it deeply human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
I know you probably don't know where to go from there. But anyway, we're in conceptualizing now. So
well, the thing that comes up for me is even the bifurcation between the real and the digital.
Yeah. It's going to go away. I understand what you're trying to say. I get it.
AI is going to be more like light bulbs and the water faucet than it is a computer screen.
Of course. Yeah.
Like it's there are
going to be chips in our head. There's going to be all sorts of merging. Yeah.
But I'm just like, it's going to be more physical than digital. Like, and that's actually the challenge is it will
start to invade the atomic world. Yeah. It won't just be backlit screens.
And facilitate it.
Yeah.
And because it facilitates it so well, our thinking is going to be embedded with it. We won't know a world without it anymore.
So we will have to find other ways to earn knowledge.
Yeah.
Almost kind of like being overweight was not an issue for most of human history. Like we just didn't have the capacity. We didn't have the calorie intake, and we didn't have the luxury to sit around.
Yeah.
And so, but at a certain point when food became abundant in certain regions of the world, and also a lot of people became knowledge workers and then just ended up sitting in cubicles all day, we started to gain weight. And so now we have to sort of force ourselves to go to the gym or to go running, even though we're not running from or toward anything. Like we have to find ways to earn, to burn those calories. And so we'll have to do the same thing only with knowledge. We'll have to get gym memberships for mental, knowledge earning.
And what I'm saying is I don't think knowledge will be a currency that it once was. I guess that's the premise is that the things that we think we have to figure out, I'm saying they may categorically just go away altogether. And the knowledge you're talking about is like intuitive understanding between people or emotional understanding or like maybe even that, I don't know. Like the reality that we know is not going to be the same. And so the premises that we're building it off of aren't going to be the same. And I don't know what that is. I'm not saying maybe knowledge will be.
Yeah.
But with machines that have IQs that are deviations to the nth degree of a human capacity, we're going to be like ants among gods with the knowledge we will have capacity for. We'll be able to understand this direction to a limited ability, but we're not going to really be able to play at a high level anymore because what could we contribute to that? So what can humans provide? It's going to be our intuition, our emotion, our relatability, all the things that are more animal than cognitive. And I guess that's where I see humans have had a pride of cognition for so long. We've been the dominant. We've been
Right.
the apex predator of cognition.
Yeah.
And we're about to be overtaken for the first time in the history of
Right.
anything.
Yeah.
We've always been the apex predator in cognition, and we're no longer going to be that.
I think you
period.
misunderstand me too. When I use the word knowledge, the assumption is we're talking about like cognitive knowledge. I'm talking about even experiential or relational knowledge.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I mean, I'm talking like knowledge is knowing, but that doesn't just mean ones and zeros.
Fair enough.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I
so-
know that's. I mean, I'm not actually trying to. I'm trying to take what you're saying and build upon it, not contradict it. But it probably sounds like I'm being more competitive or contradictory than I mean to be.
Not necessarily. No, I know what you're trying to say. And while I'm not 100% sure I'm totally there, like I think there will always be a reason or value for us to keep our mental wits about us. Like I do think that we're going to en masse hand a lot of thought labor, if not most of it, over to AI. I do believe that's the case. Most people hate thinking, right? Or at least that's my experience. They like hearing something that sounds true, attaching to it, and then that's like their belief set or their identity or whatever. Like I think that's a lot of people. If we can get away with not thinking, we definitely will. In the same way that most people don't hit the gym, right? Like most people are not in good physical health if they can get away with just like, consuming a lot of calories and sitting around. So I do think that that human nature is homeostatic, and it tends to find, like how do I conserve my energy as much as possible? And that is in a lot of different categories for sure. Though the more mentally sharp we keep ourselves, the more capacity we have for things like the things you're talking about, intuition and interpersonal relationships and that sort of thing. But I do think a lot of that's going to be just naturally outsourced for sure.
So to play your concept, it's like going to the mental gym would be like going to the regular gym. I don't have to go lift hay bales on the farm. Mm-hmm. That's just taken care of for me.
Right.
But if I want to be strong, I go to the gym and I lift weights, like simulating maybe farm work.
Yeah,
or
like
simulating,
a manufactured context.
Yes, simulating, and I do it for its own sake, not because I need the strength. I'm not going to go lift like big boulders or fight a war or build the pyramids. Yeah. I do it just to be healthy. It's hygiene. Well, and so what I hear you saying is we're not going to sharpen our minds to try to figure anything out, because there's nothing to figure out. Once AI solves all this, it's going to have perfect knowledge and the highest level of knowledge ever. We don't need it to figure anything out, because AI can do that for us. Almost like a calculator. You don't need, you know what I mean? Like, I guess theoretical math is still open to us because it's theoretical. It can't be computed through computers. So anything like that. But once AI solves these things, we'll only do mental hygiene for our own sake, not to contribute in a way.
Well, I mean,
just like with going to the gym.
I don't know, but people who remain strong are contributive. Like they can contribute with it. But like you said, I don't have to do it because I don't have to move huge bales of hay on the farm every day. So I'm not doing it for that purpose. Yeah. But people do it also so they can get like earned dopamine. So it's not just, to keep myself strong. It's also because the human mind was formed during a time period where like physical health and like being strong, also through neurotransmitters and, like chemicals and all that stuff, like we get tons of personal reward for it. And it also ends up translating to value opportunistically, not out of necessity from day to day most of the time, but it does opportunistically allow the person to be more helpful. Yeah. I had to say the same thing. If we enter a world where AI is solving all of our problems for us, the same thing would hold true. I think a huge part of our depression and dysthymia in the country is because we just don't force ourselves to go get earned dopamine. Like we don't force ourselves to work out. We don't force ourselves to stay healthy. We don't force ourselves, like the people who do, I mean, I heard somebody say something, this is going to sound like probably wildly inappropriate, but somebody was like, well, if you want to take yourself out, get six-pack abs first and then reevaluate. And basically the thought was, go do all the things that would require you to get six-pack abs and just discover how much of your dysthymia, depression, and that feeling of like just wanting everything to go away, how much of it was based on the fact that you were just sitting around moping or just sitting around like not taking action or not getting enough of that earned dopamine dumped into your system or having massively imbalanced chemicals and neurotransmitters because you're not honoring 200,000 years of evolutionary psychology around like how we need to be active and strong and physically fit. We need to. So, I mean, I say that as somebody who's like, 10 pounds overweight right now. But I know that when I'm depressed, I'm like, well, I haven't hit the gym in a while, so why am I bitching, right? So the same holds true for us cognitively, I believe. I think I think the fact that we have outsourced so much thinking to social media, we've already done it in mass. We've already done it with echo chambers and with, just like finding somebody who approximately thinks what we think, or it kind of sounds right. And then again, turning that into our paradigm or our beliefs or our identity or whatever. I think that's also a huge part of why people are dysthymic, because they're not thinking for them, like truly thinking for themselves. They might believe they are, but most people don't actually know what it means to think for themselves. They don't actually have the mechanisms because it's not taught, right? Nobody's teaching you how to think independently. Nobody is, for the most part. So that also leads to a lot of depression and dysthymia. And same thing with emotion, right? Like not being able to know how to regulate our own emotional condition, not knowing how to do emotional process and release, not knowing how to, to express our own emotions in a healthy way and flush them out. A ton of depression comes, and dysthymia comes with that too. So I think you're right. I think translate is going to be very much about, and I think that's probably what I was sort of hinting at before I was talking about things that are humanizing. Mm-hmm. And it's basically like things that, another way of saying that, because I think humanizing also means like seeing each other as people. I think it's more like honoring what it means to be a human, including the fact that we have 200,000 years of evolutionary psychology that says these are the things that we need in order to feel good. Yeah. And so that's like a human, like that's human, right? Like it's honoring the biology of what it means to be human. And so a piece of what you're talking about is when everything goes into something else's hands, when it's just handled and taken care of. Unless we end up in battle with AI, right? A la, Terminator or whatever. Like there's,
I'm assuming not.
I'm assuming not. I'm assuming it's going to go more towards the movie Her than it is towards the movie, Terminator. Maybe just because I'm eternally optimistic and I don't fear technology. But that said, if everything is just sort of handled and taken care of for us, then the most human things will be earned, right? Like we have to earn our neurotransmitters. We have to earn our good chemicals, our happy chemicals. We have to earn all of that stuff. And so translate the value will be anything that encourages us and helps us to do that. That gives us an insight into the value, gives us the motivation to do so, that gathers us together to recognize the importance of all of that, and then facilitates it through tools and technology and that sort of thing.
So I want to invite you, if you're listening or watching right now, to come join us and learn more about the translate part. I think that, I really believe that personality type is going to be a part of this new world because it's a ballast of self, mm-hmm. and it's a map. It's not just a label. It's a map to the inner spaces. Yep. It's our shadow. It's our humanness. It's our cognition. Yep. It doesn't matter whether it's useful or not. Like let's say AI solves the thinking problem and we don't need thinking anymore to contribute, but we still want it for ourselves. Just like muscles, we want to work out or be strong because it feeds to us as people. Mm-hmm. I think we're going to need to know personality type really well. And I would love for you watching or listening to be part of this. I think, again, making personality type operational, learning how to translate it, we've developed a methodology and a skill set for this, our personality profiler training. I can't speak highly enough of it because it teaches you an operational framework of personality type. It's not just theoretical. It shows you a client person-to-person avenue for this, an expression of it. Yeah. You get a ton of training in there. You get a method, and you become the instrument. You don't need a paper-based test. You don't need external resources. You are the resource. Yeah. And not only do you start to notice and be able to spot other people's personality type by having conversation with them and help them arrive at their best fit type, that's a great gift. Every time you do this process, every time you go through it and you learn more about others, you're going to learn more about yourself. And you're diving deeper in your own map, and you're learning more about yourself, and you've got a map for that too. So what I'm hoping is that while this transition is happening, we don't know what the future is going to hold. We have no idea what's coming yet. I do think we can make some predictions that AI is going to eat most jobs, and people are going to have the question, who am I if I don't know what I do? And when that moment comes, I would love for you, if you're watching and listening right now, to understand how to do something like personality profiling. Because I feel like that would be a skill to be able to tune into other people, because the disciplines in there, it's not just about helping them arrive at the best fit type. It's about helping them look at parts inside themselves they haven't seen yet. They like reflect on parts that they haven't even thought about. And if we go through this method and we show you the different aspects of this, you're going to have a skill set to be able to guide somebody to that process, the inner space. We're not going to have enough therapists to do all the work. We're going to have enough like coaches to do all the work. We're going to need everybody, all hands on deck, for people to know how to do this for themselves, to find the inner space, but also to be able to do this for others. And I don't think, it's self-serving because we provide this program, but we provide it because we believe in it, and there's for a reason. It's for a really particular reason, that we believe this skill will actually help further humanity for the changes that are coming. In the early days, it was a lot about educate.
Right.
To be honest, it really was. It was like, okay, let's teach personality type. Let's teach personality profiling. A lot of people wanted to be able to spot personality types, maybe turn it into a coaching practice. And it's still there. There's a lot of things you can learn in like profiler training. But that translate piece, it's one of the few places that I see using type in this way. And I'm sure there's others, but this goes to the heart of what Carl Jung was doing. This is important. We need as many people as possible to understand how to be the instrument of type, understand themselves, and then be able to tune into somebody else. I can't speak highly enough of that skill, or a skill very similar to it. Maybe there's other disciplines you want to follow, but I just get into some discipline where you can do this.
Well, and to speak to what we were talking about today in this podcast, yeah, probably LLMs will start typing people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're gonna get to a place where they're probably. I mean, I know somebody who built one, and it's not bad, right? Like they're gonna get to a place where figuring out one's type is going to be able to be done through a mechanism like like a ChatGPT or something. But we're not really talking about profiling just to find a type, to speak to what you're effectively saying.
Yeah.
It's actually to use profiling to have a deep dive psyche to psyche experience with somebody.
Yes.
And you always say it's not that we know their type. We know it's like it's not that they are their type. It's how they are their type. But the other piece of it is a psyche to psyche experience is the only way to really reflect back to the shadow work, which is why profiling is like the beginning of a journey into Jungian coaching, effectively. Like this is the beginning, and then eventually it goes to a place that's deeply like our coursework, and this is what we've been crafting over the last couple of years, and we're heading more and more and more in this direction.
Yeah.
To get to a place where you're actually doing coaching through a Jungian frame.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because then you can reflect back somebody's shadow to them.
Yeah.
And they can reflect your shadow, which may or may not be fun, but that's what a psyche to psyche experience does. That's what analysis was originally intended to do, was to find those unconscious layers. And the reason why that's important is because I'm not sure exactly how AI is going to fit into the psyche to psyche experience that reflects your shadow back to you. I find that my conversations with like an LLM can be very rewarding and can definitely give me lots of information, but I don't know that it has yet started reflecting my shadow back to me. And that's still a human experience. To speak to humanizing experiences, having a conversation with another human and they reflect your shadow back to you and you get all triggered or they get triggered, that is deeply human. And so I think profiling is a big piece of that. It's to be able to have a conversation around that so you can figure those things out along, down the line. And at least for now, until they stop us, until it's no longer possible, we're still doing live events, which mean that that's also a humanizing experience of gathering around other people of like minds, having these live event experiences. I mean, I know that it's really easy to get passive. It's really easy to want everything to be just digitally sort of delivered to you. And we've resisted the idea of a pure digital experience for a long time because we believe it's so important to meet together. So the live event is intended for that. It's like people's lives get changed for a reason at these events. And it's not just because they're learning more about type.
Well, it's stuff like during the embodiment exercises when we're going through all the 8 cognitive functions, and let's say we're an introverted feeling, and you might be sitting there and an ENTJ is sitting next to you crying.
Yeah.
Randomly, another ENTJ next to you is like not feeling
Totally
anything
stoic.
at all. You're like, okay, why is this happening to one
Yeah.
person? Like, because each person's different,
Right.
and things are striking people different.
Yeah.
And it's nice just to, like there's information you get from experiencing that.
Yep.
These two people that are the same type on either side of you having radical different experiences from the same exercise.
Yep.
You're like, I understand something about introverted feeling or authenticity because the experience I'm having watching these two people of the same type.
Yep.
In this moment.
Yep.
I can never read in a book. I can't get from LLM. I can't do except in an experiential way.
That's right.
And so again, we're trying to translate the value of personality type through experience in that moment for you if you decide to come to one of these programs.
Yeah. And it used to be that we would only open these up for a certain time. But actually, at this point, if a person wants to have a conversation with one of our discovery team people to talk about whether or not it's like right for them, even right now, even if it's not like the time period that we're usually opening them up, we're really encouraging people to do that because of what you're talking about, Joel, is because we see something happening fast. It's coming quick. Yeah. And we want to make sure that we're not creating unnecessary barriers to being able to pick up this information because we believe it's so important. So don't just go to personalityhacker.com to look up other podcasts and to look up other information. But honestly, like if it's a thing where like, yeah, no, I think this is important. I think this is a thing. Yeah. Come schedule a conversation with one of our discovery team because they're all awesome human beings that have all been through profiler training. They've been through, the majority of most of them have been through a personality life path. They're people who know what they're talking about with both type and also our programs. Yeah. So they're like the best people to talk about with whether or not you should be hooking up to a profiler training right now. Excellent. All right. So while you're at personalityhacker.com and you're checking out personality profiler training, which I want everybody to be part of. Yeah. I know not everybody's going to do it, but I wish the whole world would be part of this and learn this skill because it's so powerful for your life. You can also go to profilertraining.com. There you go. Yep. While you're there at the personality hacker side, though, I'd love to hear from you about this conversation between relate, educate, translate. We got a little slow start. I kind of slowly ramped into the conversation, went a little long, but I think there's some key principles here that are important for where I want to see us shape and move toward the future of personality type. I think we're nuts. I don't think we're going to, like, this is not a money-making endeavor the way we're trying to do this. Like, it would be much easier just to create a bunch of education stuff, create a membership group, which we might still have some memberships that we put out soon for the educate, and just try to, like, feed people with exactly what they want, typing from a distance on video and just pick it apart and just talk about behaviors and all these little things, facial expressions, and there's value to that. There's nothing wrong with it, but I see a bigger value on the other side of that on the translate side. Mm-hmm. So I want to hear from you. Where do you see the value in translate in your life? And not just in personality type, but are you seeing other things like what I talked with Piper about, theater? Like, where do you see this having to go in the future for what you do, for what you contribute? We all have a superpower. We all have a gift. What's your gift? What are you here to contribute to the world, and how do you see it translating the value in this new world that I think is coming faster than we realize? I think the cat's out of the bag. It's on its way here. And we can't say, I don't give you consent to take my job or my thoughts. I don't think that's going to work. Yeah. So I want to hear from you. Come over to personalhacker.com. Make your voice heard. Let's get a conversation going. Yeah. And if you enjoy the podcast, you can subscribe to us on various Android platforms as well as Apple Podcasts. If you leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, I would be super duper happy. So go do that, because then it gives a little adrenaline shot to the heart of why we're doing this and that you're listening. You can also watch us on YouTube. We've got a video podcast. You might be doing that right now. And you can subscribe, and hit the bell for future episodes. We do premieres every Sunday at this point. I know I'm dating it a little bit. I apologize. But we do premieres, and you can go get yourself on a, let YouTube know that you are waiting for the future episodes as well on those premieres. Yep. My name is Joel Mark Witt. And I'm Antonia Dodge. And we'll talk with you on the next Personality Hacker Podcast.